Let's go to Glenn Beck. He apparently is against social justice. Now, you think, oh, come on now. That can't be true. Who's against social justice? Who's against justice? Right? But he also says he's against democracy. Now, again, you think, like, come on, he can't really say that. But he is. He says, well, you know, his excuse is, no, we're a republic, we're not really a democracy. All right, now, apparently, if you're pursuing social justice, you're a Nazi and a communist. Once again, you think it can't be true, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to play the clip for you. Okay, this is from his show, and at different times, by the way, on his TV show, he has held up, while talking about the same issue, a swastika and the sickle and the hammer of the communists. Okay, so let's watch. Or let's listen. I'm sorry, clip number 6.
Because they just can't do it on their own. Isn't it weird, as we've made so much progress, that society has gotten worse? That's strange. See, the idea behind progressives, and this is why, and I'm begging you, I am begging you, your right to religion and freedom to exercise religion and read all of the passages in the Bible as you want to read them and as your church wants to preach them are going to come under the ropes here in probably the next year. If it lasts that long, it'll be the next year. I beg you, look for the words social justice or economic justice on your church website. If you find it, run as fast as you can. Social justice and economic justice, they are code words. Now, the idea, hang on, who's saying, am I advising people to leave their church? Yes. If I'm going to Jeremiah Wright's church, yes, leave your church.
Yes, that's probably good advice at Jeremiah's
Social
church.
justice and economic justice, they are code words. If you have a priest that is pushing social justice, go find another parish. Go alert your bishop and tell them, excuse me, are you down with this whole social justice thing? I don't care what the church is. If it's my church, I'm alerting the church authorities, excuse me, what's this social justice thing? And if they say, yeah, we're all in that social justice thing, I'm in the wrong place.
Possible they need to be illuminated to the hidden meaning behind some of these terms. I think a lot of people adopt these green sort of policies without realizing
that's a very good. It's a very good chance that people don't know what it is. That's why you have to educate yourself. Social justice, and tonight I'm going to show you history you have never seen before. Pat saw some of the history that I'm showing tonight. You saw some of the clips. Have you ever seen anything like this American history that I'm going to show tonight?
No.
If I told you that I had film of this, you would say, no way. Would you not?
Yeah. Yeah, because I've never heard of it.
If I told you that while communists were in the White House advising the president and making policy, communists in the White House, the communist movement had filled the Madison Square Garden to the rim with cheering communists. They weren't hiding. They were talking about how great their relationship is with the Democratic Party, etc., etc. If I told you that, you'd say, okay, what? But how about if I told you this? At the same time, the Nazis had a convention at Madison Square Garden, and right there on the swastika, they had the big red banners with the white circle and the swastika, and right next to it, a big red, white, and blue American flag banner.
I'm going to show you history you've never seen before. You know why? Because it's not really history. Now, does that mean that there were never communists in this country, ever? There were never anybody that supported the Nazis ever in this country? No, of course not. Can you find that in American history? You can. In fact, Jesse Ventura, who's going to be on the show later, writes about how Prescott Bush, the great grandfather of George W. Bush, helped German steel interests that were helping the Nazi Party. And he did it for money. And it was before the war, and then, of course, it was after the war, and so he got in some trouble for that. Okay, now does that make Bush a Nazi? It doesn't. That was his great-grandfather from a long time ago. But yes, there have been Nazis or Nazi supporters or et cetera, communists in this country. But you get the trick he's doing. It's called the same sentence strategy. I just came up with that term. Bush did it for attacking Iraq. Now, he did at times say it, but oftentimes he wouldn't say Iraq did 9/11. He would just say 9/11 was terrible. Oh, my God, they attacked us. And you know what? Iraq is in the same part of the world that 9/11 happened from, and Saddam Hussein is terrible. And he keeps saying it in the same sentence so that by the time we invaded Iraq, 69% of Americans thought that Saddam Hussein was personally responsible for 9/11 because they kept using it in the same sentence and nobody ever pointed it out. Beck is the master of that. So in the middle of those stories, he started talking about social justice, then he switched to Nazis and communists. Same sentence. Did he explain how they were connected? How the church that preaches social justice is connected to Nazis? No, never connected it. But it's the same sentence. Nazis, communists, social justice, fascist, communists. And then the guys listening to Glenn Beck go, I don't know, I guess if they say social justice, they must be Nazis. Now, get to the point about social justice in the church. I mean, can you believe he says that if your church is preaching social justice, first of all, you should alert the church authorities. Oh, that's great. Imagine you go up to your church authorities and you're like, I don't know if you know this, but they're preaching justice in this church. What should they be preaching instead? Injustice? I mean, look at how they turn things on their heads. And now the people who wrap themselves in the church were like, oh, the church. The minute that they find it slightly inconvenient, if you actually teach Jesus' words in the New Testament, they're like, oh, leave the church. Who cares? Leave it right away. Beck says, if my church is talking about justice, I know I'm in the wrong place. Well, that part is definitely true. Social justice is apparently code words for communism and Nazism. Well, that's got to be news to Jesus. When he did his Sermon on the Mount, I guess he was preaching fascism and communism. Unreal. Unreal. You think they care about the church? They don't care about the church. You think they care about justice? Obviously, they're telling you they don't care about justice. Right? All they care about is how to make the bucks. So if somebody says at church, hey, maybe we should look out for the poor, Glenn Beck says, oh, no, that's economic justice. No, you crush the poor. You help the bankers. You help the corporations. You help the biggest people, the richest people in America. Now, if you told Beck that, he said, oh, no, I'm not interested in helping the bankers. But when you ask him, hey, should we regulate the banks so they don't take these risks with our money? He says, oh, no, don't regulate them. Don't regulate them. No, the government should get out of the business of regulating banks and let them run amok. And in the end, well, will you look at that? The bankers wound up with all the money, and the poor got crushed. And if you talk about, hey, maybe we should help the poor in church, no, you're at the wrong place. Social and economic justice, no, we can't have that. What they're trying to do is they're trying to drive out any remnants of the decent Jesus, the one that delivered the Sermon on the Mount, the one that cared about the poor, the needy, the weakest. They're trying to drive that from the church. Now, I'm not a big fan of Christianity or any of the religions, right? But if you read I tell you all the time, read the Bible, right? And it's got downsides, and I talk about it all the time. But it has upsides, too. If you believe in any of the upsides, if you read the New Testament at all, and you heard this, I mean, the number one guy Jesus would throw out on his ass the minute he came back down, if you believe it, is Glenn Beck. So I could just see that conversation. Jesus comes out and he's like, so you're to tell me I shouldn't talk about social justice, that makes me a Nazi. That I shouldn't talk about economic justice and helping the poor, because that makes me a Nazi. I'd love to see how Glenn answered that. These people are using your anger and, unfortunately, for some of their viewers, your naivete to try to make more money off your ass. And if anyone dares complain that the banks this year, in the middle of a gigantic economic collapse that they caused, are making record bonuses, if you dare complain, you're a communist and a Nazi. That's Glenn Beck for you.